You don't need more time. You need a hack called 20% mode. Most of us are procrastinating. We want the results, but the doing, that is the hardest part. It is the awkward conversation, the choice of comfort, the putting on the shoes before going to the gym. Like it's such a cliche that it's just the shoes, and it's that easy. But no one talks about the 100 invisible steps that occur before that, the mental tug of war. And we get so caught up in this and wait until we do things perfectly or show up anyway and do the best that we can. But the truth is, near enough is good enough. And last week I talked about proximity to the goal. So I'll put a link into the description below because this is what I'm talking about. The near enough is the kind of proximity that you need. And here that can look like person A who doesn't feel like going to the gym but still goes versus person B who says, I'd rather stay home. In this scenario, one is building momentum, the other is building resistance. And you don't need to crush the task. There is so much power in showing up, especially when you don't feel like it. And that's where most of us get stuck. It's the momentum that we miss. Instead of doing it anyway, we stall. But here's what I've learned. We convince ourselves that tasks take longer than they do. We put off simple tasks for weeks and call it preparation. That's what gets overlooked. We think tasks take longer than they do. So we give them more time, and time extends to take that amount of time for the task to happen. This is Parkinson's law in action. This is an observation by British historian Cyril Northcote Parkinson, who states that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. If you give yourself a week, it will take a week. And in that week, that's when we start to overthink. We hesitate, we delay. The longer we want to start, the heavier the task feels. Action gets delayed, and our progress gets completely postponed. Confidence starts to erode, and the work is rarely the hardest part. It's the circling, the waiting, the self-sabotage that truly steals our hours. And when we do finally act, only a small portion of that was what actually mattered. And that's the Pareto Principle. So 80% of your results come from just 20% of your actions. So most of what we stress over does not actually move the needle. These are the two fundamental principles that change my life. And when I moved from knowing them to actually starting to live in them, that's when it made the biggest difference. Recently, I needed to run an automation that I told myself it was going to take a month to tackle this project, to make real progress, to finally get my act together and organize this automation. But what I found was when I actually sat down to do the task, it took one single allotment of time, one day. It worked, it ran, it succeeded. And that's the point of doing the best you can inside of the time that you have. This matters because life's not perfect. It's not linear, it's not a grind. The best outcomes don't come from more effort. They come from action. You start, you learn, you return, you improve, you repeat. That's how you build leverage. That's how you gain clarity. That's how you stop feeling like a failure. But it wasn't always like that for me. It took me years to learn. I want to help you skip that part. I know what it looks like firsthand. Years ago, I lived in a house full of mess, a body that had given up, a mind that was only ever calling me pathetic. I was sick, but I still tried to prove my worth. I created a whole entire curriculum from bed. I pushed so hard. When I finally finished, my body had completely shut down. I was thinking that I was showing strength, but I was so deep in that 80% of work, overworking, pleasing, distracting, while ignoring the 20% that actually mattered. Focus, health, joy. The project didn't align with me anymore, but I couldn't stop. I fixated. And when you fixate, you find you lose yourself in the process. Everything becomes so busy that clarity feels like you're not moving at all. And it's like you're on an escalator that goes nowhere. You think you're going up, but you're being dragged along. You're doing all the things, following the rules, but you're being dragged by someone else's direction. And the only way off is to step off the escalator and take the stairs. That's the real progress here. It's the real ones that show your strength, that take longer at first but actually lead you somewhere. Because while you're dragging your feet, the world is not waiting. We listen to podcasts at double speed. We swipe. We move so much faster. Even the earth itself is moving faster than it did 50 years ago. But our action, it's lagging. Because deliberate action cuts through. It stops us from reacting, and you start doing things with intention. Shortcuts actually reveal themselves. So here's how you move from stuck to steady. You choose one task, the task that's going to move you in the right direction, and you find the 20% there, the one that will actually move you to where you're trying to go. It sounds simple, but this has changed so much of the way that I approach the work that I do, and how I build, and how I write, and how I live. And here's the 20% action, is that you pick the thing that you've been avoiding. You shrink down that time, and then you're able to loop back with more clarity. You refine the process and repeat until it feels natural. That's how you earn clarity. That's how you stop fighting yourself. Avoid stalling in thought. Shrink the space between knowing and actually doing. Work with your energy, work with your time, build the systems that give you that space. Make decisions that actually take you to where you want to go. I teach what I had to learn the long and expensive way so you don't have to. That's the power of 20% mode. Simple, repeatable, yours.